an extraordinary honor and privilege and pleasure to be here. Finally, after a long, what do they call it? A long run for well, this would be a long jump. Run for a long jump.
That's right. I think we started working together, 3 years ago or so.
Something like that. Time has gotten a little elastic, right?
Yes. Started working with the Institute for Venture Philanthropy, who very generously sponsored having this exhibition here. And it's just really such a treat to welcome you to the museum in person.
Thank you.
And great joy to have the Talking Cure here. So I appreciate you sitting down with me and answering some questions that I'm sure
maybe you'll get cured.
Yeah, so maybe. Well, I sure did that lately after this, the craziness we've all been through with the pandemic. But,
for sure.
So maybe we can start, if you don't mind, just saying, what is the Talking Cure?
So the Talking Cure is it's an installation. It's an immersive project. It's a collaboration. And it really came about because I work by myself in the studio, and it's actually a very lonely thing, being an artist sometimes. And I had this idea. I had a show coming up related to NSECA in Seattle way back when, to try and collaborate. And I wasn't quite sure how or what that would be. And then I realized this is not a linear process, first of all.
Very rarely is.
I realized that the question people most commonly ask me when they look at my work is, what's it all about? And my answer would always be, well, what do you think it's about? Because I'm much more interested in dialogue than monologue. And I thought about that, what do you think kind of turn, and I realized that is kind of what therapists do. It's not what I think, it's what you think.
Yeah.
And that became the germ of the idea and the germ of the exhibition. And so I made 12 sculptures, random number. I actually made 15.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, because what I then did is I invited in writers, 12 writers from all different walks of the writing world. There's a comic book artist, there's a horror film writer, there's a rock and roll singer-writer, playwright. And I asked each of them to come into the studio by themselves and pick a piece that spoke to them. And then I asked them to write a 3-minute monologue of what they thought was going on in my sculpture's head. What were they thinking? And the reason I made 15 is because I didn't want to have somebody come in and say, well, that's the last one. You have to use that one.
Oh.
So there are 3 orphans out there that nobody chose.
Oh, that's very kind of you.
Well,
to not want to put someone in that position.
Exactly. And then they'd be like, oh, wow, really? I don't really like that piece. So, and I very purposely did not direct the writers. As you can see, my pieces don't have very specific gender. To me, some of them are very clearly male or very female, but I wanted the writers to have free reign. And the other idea that then came into play was that the idea of therapy is that you're cured by talking. Yeah. You give it up. You give it away. You take your burdens and you move them on. And so I decided that the experiment for me would be to give my work away, meaning that I did not direct the writers, saying this has to be this has to. They use their imagination to come up with who these people are. And I was completely shocked by who they thought they were because, again, each writer brought their story, their narrative. I mean, the whole show is about storytelling, right?
Right, absolutely.
And so
relationships
So they brought their story to bear on the sculpture they chose. I then put out a casting call in New York for young actors. And actually ended up getting some not-so-young actors. And again, each actor was allowed to choose who they wanted to be.
Right.
And
how they would interpret.
Exactly. What gender they wanted it to be, what voice. And for that, I had to do a little direction just because I had to learn sound recording.
Oh, boy.
Right? Yeah. Louder, softer.
Everything else,
faster, slower. And it was an interesting production process. And I worked with a tech guy who threw all the monologues up in the sky and generated these weird things. Now remember, this is 2012.
Yeah.
These weird things called QR codes.
That, of course, we all,
Well,
that's, very much in our lives now.
Yeah, so at the very beginning, excuse me, I think I sent you some of the paperwork. When the show started traveling, I had to send this long explanation, like, what the heck is a QR code? And we also had MP3 players.
Yeah.
Ironically, those are now the outdated technology. And so the idea is that when you came into the show, you would hit the QR code with your phone and the sculpture would speak.
Yeah. And what a wonderful way to activate the sculptures in that way. And I have to laugh because I know when we first started planning, this was of course in 2018,
Right.
2019, and I said, well, I'm not sure about the QR codes, if all
Right.
of our visitors are going to know what that is, and
Right.
maybe we should bring in the MP3 players. And of course now after the
like,
last couple
yeah.
years, it really has become part of what we do
Yes.
in our everyday lives with technology.
I was wildly ahead of my
Yeah.
time.
Sure, in many ways. Well, I'd love to talk about the collaborative aspect because I think, that's really interesting to me. I think it's so unusual that that you enveloped in your own practice the literary arts, the performing arts, and really gave the freedom to the collaborators.
Right.
So could you talk a little bit about that collaborative process? What surprised you about it? What went well? What maybe were some bumps along the way?
Yeah, and I would just want to add for the record that you were part of the collaborative process because, as we discussed, every time the show has gone to an institution, I tell the curator, set it up however you want.
Yeah.
And so that's drawing you into the project as well in a different way.
Yeah.
I really became a producer in a sense, and definitely working with writers was like trying to wrangle sheep or geese. I don't know,
Or cats.
or cats. What the metaphor is. It was just interesting to find out who got their piece in on time, who hit the word count, because we had determined that 3 minutes is about as much as people will listen.
And how did you determine that?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think I did some research.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
I'm
long
sure
time
there's
ago.
data out there.
Yeah,
about that.
and so, but the drawings and the sculptures speak to each other in different ways.
Yeah.
And so that became very important. It also activates the walls, and
Right.
it makes it a different, fuller kind of show.
Yeah, I think so. It makes
Yeah.
it more immersive, and even back to what you were saying about the curators and the exhibition designers being part of this collaboration. I
Right.
think in designing the show, I had a lot of fun, not just figuring out where the figures are going to be in relationship to each other and thinking about as visitors come into the space and how they experience it, but also how the drawings are placed and
Right.
the different relationships that the drawings
Right.
also have with the sculptures.
Absolutely.
And that was a lot of fun to
I mean,
play with that.
It looks different in every single venue.
Yeah.
And in every venue, even though, it's 24 pieces total, in every single venue, there have been relationships made that I never saw.
Yeah.
And to me, that is just delicious,
Yeah.
delightful.
Oh.
And I mean, I would love to collaborate again. And anybody watching this
Yeah.
video, I really enjoy the collaborative process. I guess I enjoy being part of a team where we're all kind of working towards that same goal, and maybe also being the person in control of it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and based on the results, certainly you have a real talent, not just for
Thank
creating
you.
the work itself, but also for bringing together
Thank
very
you.
talented groups of people with a common goal.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's been, quite candidly, this has been like the most extraordinary thing of my artistic life. I never imagined that this show would resonate with so many people, that it would have the life that it's had, and that it would touch so many people in so many different places around America.
Well, hopefully around the world.
Around
someday.
the world.
Yeah.
You're from your
Yeah,
lips.
yeah.